Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. I'm Gianni, the FPL guy. I'm joined by Dean Jones, the football insider. And as Steve in the chat says, audience, please take your seats. We've got a great show coming up this evening. We've got, of course, some injury news. We're going to be looking at some of our predictions. We've got our team reveals against the obvious. We're answering your questions. And hello to everyone in the chat. Good to see Mark and Haley and co. Dean, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. This feels like a really big game week. I don't know why, because there's not that many like massive fixtures or anything. It just feels like a weekend that's going to kill a few people who are doing really well. I don't know. I just got this weird vibe about this weekend because people are like, yeah, this guy's definitely going to fire. This guy's definitely going to flop. And I'm not convinced by any of it. I'm looking at it. I'm being like, I think people are reading too much into too many things at the moment. And we are going to address all of that in the next hour.
It is a weird week, or maybe it's something to do with Halloween. Like the most sold player in FPL this game week is Mo Salah, who is about to play Leeds, and a lot of people are looking to captain. Like that's surprising, knowing what he's been doing in the Champions League. I know he's not been performing in the Premier League, but yeah, it's an interesting week ahead. I'm looking forward to showing you our teams in about 20 minutes time. But first, we're going to have to talk about some of the headlines of the day, some of the news we've seen. I'm glad to see in the chat we're joined by Colm, who's got an interest in injuries and starting 11s and stuff like that. Dean, we probably have to start with fresh off the press, right?
I think so. I think so. Yeah, look, Erling Haaland, let's talk about it. Let's just get it out the way. Talk 5-10 minutes, whatever we have to on this. The question's already started with Paul Cook. Now, is Haaland going to start? That is the question. And what is the answer, guys? My answer is honestly, in FPL, I do not believe it matters this weekend. I don't believe it matters. To Man City, I believe that this is really important. They haven't scored for the last 3 away games. It's a really weird stat, but they haven't scored in their last 3 away matches. And they also can't score penalties. So Man City, they really need Haaland to be fit. In FPL, I don't believe that we actually need to know the answer to this question because Haaland can be your captain this weekend, in my view, because he is either starting or he's not playing at all, unless Man City are not winning that game. The only way he's coming on as a sub is if Man City are looking for goals, in which case he'll come on and score goals. That's literally what's going to... That's the only way I can see this opening. I don't see that Haaland is going to come on for 10 minutes at the end of the game for no real reason. And that's that. You get your 1 point and you're gone. Yeah. I don't know. Like I'm reading everything and seeing people really panic about this captain decision over Haaland. And I just don't think it matters. I think the biggest decision you make this weekend is who is your vice captain and who is your first sub. That to me is like, that's all I've been thinking about. I'm like, I don't care if Haaland starts. I'm not getting rid of him, am I? Like, he's got 2 good games coming up and he's going to play in them. And I don't know, maybe I'm misreading this, mate, but what do you think?
Us FPL managers, especially those really engaged ones on Twitter, count myself in that, we like to overthink it. We like to worry when there's no need to worry. I think what you've just summarized is absolutely on the money. I think it makes sense to, if you think he's the best captaincy option this game week, you give him the armband. If he doesn't start, as you say, there's a chance he comes on, but it will be because they're losing and you might get half an hour of Haaland. And how many times this season have we said half an hour of Haaland is better than 90 minutes of any other player, right? And then also, option 3 is you have a vice captain. He doesn't play because he's injured and City are cruising. They don't need to put him on off the bench and he's given a week off. And in that case, you have Harry Kane or Salah or whoever you've got. So yeah, I'm pretty convinced I'm giving him the armband. There is one thing that adds a little bit of jeopardy to this fixture. Yeah. It's the first one. Now, FPL moved the deadline from an hour before the first game to an hour and a half before the first game. I think a year ago, possibly 2 seasons ago. I can't remember. They moved it because of team leaks and they didn't want FPL managers gaining an edge. Now, unfortunately, we're still getting some team leaks. I say unfortunately because I don't think it's fair. And it means those engaged managers or those in the nose get a little advantage on occasion. Now, some teams like Liverpool, we get reliable leaks from. You see them all over Twitter. More often than not, they're right. There's very few teams we do get reliable leaks from. And as far as I'm aware, Man City aren't one of those. So I hope that we don't see any of those leaks. but we might see some rumours tomorrow. And
Yeah.
there will be a lot of fake rumours as well. So take them with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, like, I got a feeling we probably will know before that point, because Pep said in his press, I think he said, "I'll know in the next couple of hours."
Yeah, he did.
Whether
Yeah.
Holland's, so if he was going to, so he knows by now if Holland's playing. That means
Yeah.
that we've got we've got ages. We've got like 17 hours to find out,
Yeah.
and like people
Training photos as well.
like people can't resist putting information like that out when they hear it. And like if it's one, it would be a domino effect. Like once someone hears it, it will be out there. I think we probably will know by deadline if he's likely to or not. As I say, I don't think it matters. My hunch would be like if he can start, he'll start. Like it hasn't sounded like a massive problem to me, to be honest. And as I say, given the fact that City haven't scored an away goal in the last 3 fixtures, I think they need him. Given Mahrez's penalty in midweek, I think they need him. And this actually isn't an easy game anymore. Like Leicester have come into some form. They've come into some confidence. And I think it's actually a reasonably tricky fixture for Man City. So I would be surprised if you captain Haaland and it completely misfires and you end up with 1 point. That's my take. And that's also my hope, because that's what I'm doing. I'm going Haaland captain.
Yeah, like we've had a few comments in the chat of people saying worried about that 5-minute cameo. The 5-minute cameo feels really unlikely. Or 15-minute cameo, yeah. They would
Even
have to be
15 minutes,
losing.
he'll score.
Yeah.
Score.
Yeah. 5 minutes, I might be worried, but 15 minutes I'd take against a tired Leicester.
I think I would.
Yeah.
I think I would. And that's why, again, I just don't see that this is something to be that worried about, especially as the entire game is in the same position. Everyone is worrying about the same thing.
Yeah.
And most of us, 80% of people, will take the gamble and stick with him. Of course they will, because we've been proven to be too risky. If you take the armband off of Haaland tonight, and then that lineup is released and Haaland is starting, risk is too big. Yeah. The risk is way too big, and we've all seen that already. So I just don't believe that there are that many bold, brave managers in this game that are going to go completely the other way and all go like Jesus or Kane or Salah or whatever.
That's the thing. We'll talk more later about the other options, but I'm not convinced there's like an absolute standout secondary option either. But let's still focus on the Haaland news. A couple of comments in the chat mentioning Boona. I get that this is a bit of an in-joke for those that are in the FPL community online on Twitter, but FPL Boona is an account who likes to stir things up. He likes to pretend he's an in the know account, so he'll pretend this is Anfield or City Extra by changing his handle, changing his name, changing his pictures, and tweet loads of rubbish. It stings a lot of people. He has been banned this week, but again, he could be lying about the ban, so we don't expect a tweet. So who knows? We probably should clip this FPL focus. The biggest tip I'd say is click on the profile. If he's got 15,000 followers, you know it's Boona. If it's any other number, then it's probably legit. It's stung me a couple of times. Short term, after like 30 seconds, I'm like, okay, I just got.
God, there are so many people that try these things, and
he gets so much pleasure out of it, mate.
When you get done by one of those, you are kicking yourself. But let's see this one. What about captains always blank when they start early kickoff Saturday games? Well, that's just a chance, isn't it? That's a myth, really. I mean, if that's happening, then it's not because they haven't. It's not like they wake up at 10 a.m. and then play 2 hours later. This isn't that situation. Footballers are 100% prepared these days. In the early days of early kickoffs, it probably was a bit of a thing that players couldn't get their head around playing at midday. I think, 10, 15 years ago, that was probably an issue. Now, how many times have these players played at midday? Like loads, probably as much as half of them have played at 3 o'clock, to be honest, in the top teams.
TV game, yeah.
I know what you're saying. Like from an FPL point of view, sometimes you don't want to do it just in case they blank, because it then kind of ruins the rest of your FPL week. It's the same with like betting. Like you're careful of betting on an accumulator on the first game because you don't want it to kill the rest of your weekend. But
it's exactly the same thing.
I don't feel like Erling Haaland is like going to be a bit more weary because it's a 12:30 kickoff than a 3 o'clock.
The players do not know. The players don't care if you've given them the armband or not. It's irrelevant to them. They play the same pretty much every time they go out on the field. The likes of Haaland and De Bruyne do anyway. So time of day really shouldn't matter for you. It just shouldn't. But it's just like the accumulator thing, I guess. It's more about us than it is them.
I think
Therefore,
so. Yeah.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dow says, no, it's true. Early captains ban because they don't like eating pasta at 9 a.m.
I'd eat
Love
pasta
that,
at 9
Dow.
a.m. It's fine. Pasta's great.
Yeah, I definitely would.
Should we move on to some other teams?
Yeah, go on. What you got for us?
Well, I just want to talk about Tottenham, really, because obviously,
Yeah.
like on the back of that VAR incident, they've now got a massive game on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And, this is going to be a huge story. If they end up going out of the Champions League on the back of that late goal, like Conte is, well, he already is fuming. I'm not sure what the next thing is on from fuming, but that's what it'll be.
It's away as well. They've got to go to France on Tuesday, so it's a big travel day. Like that's going to be on their minds already for this fixture.
Yeah, and this is the
against Bournemouth.
thing. Bournemouth away. Like, I'm looking at it like I've got Kane, I've got Perisic, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm pretty confident. Will Perisic play? Not 100% sure. You look at injury news,
I don't think he
doubts
can.
over Højbjerg and Romero. There's some doubts over them. With that next game in mind too, it's a bigger game. I know those
3
two aren't
games
massive.
in 6 days because it was Wednesday and then it's Tuesday for the following one and 2 away trips. I just don't think Perisic can do that.
I don't think Perisic can. Richarlison and Kulusevski are ruled out, so we know that now. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Like, it surprised me, like Brian Hill or someone playing in this Bournemouth game.
He looked good when he came on.
He's looking good. I'm thinking like he might actually play this, get a good run in this game. But Perisic is one I'm running. We'll do our teams in a minute, but I've got a bit of a dilemma in my team, and that is one of them. So yeah, I think this Tottenham injury / rotation issue is something we really need to be aware of coming into this game week, because on paper you're thinking Bournemouth away, fine. Tottenham, well, look, they're not the most predictable team in the world, but they should get the job done there. Probably will. I'll probably still stick with Kane because I still fancy like Tottenham 1-0 being a reasonably likely outcome of that game.
Yeah.
But Bournemouth have been pretty good too.
Yeah, in recent weeks, they've started conceding a little bit, but when Gary O'Neill first took over, they always looked quite good value for a clean sheet. But I do think Spurs score. But at the same time, if that fixture was in London, I'd be like, okay, potentially a big Spurs win. Knowing it's on the south coast in Bournemouth, I can't see this being a goal fest. I don't think Spurs, they've not been scoring many anyway, but because of that, I don't think I can consider Kane for the armband or even the vice captaincy if you've got Kane in your team.
Yeah,
what would you,
exactly
what's your take with Kane? Like his ceiling feels quite low at the moment. Like he's getting a lot of 6 to 8 pointers. He's only blanked in 2 of 12 fixtures. He's had a goal or assist in 10 out of 12 Premier League games this season. That's a super good record. But I think he's only hit double digits once. So it's a fairly low, modest outcome every week, even when he's getting 6s and 7s.
Yeah, I won't be vice captaining him for various reasons, especially as I think that the chance he doesn't even play 90 in this game. I think that has to be a consideration too. Like Conte is going to have to be careful with Kane. It's not very often he does get rotated or taken off, but he might have to. Like he cannot. That game on Tuesday is so important to Tottenham now. And this game, look, if Tottenham lost this game, like it's obviously not good, but it's better than losing the next game. That is the problem with this game. Conte obviously hates losing. I've never known anyone in my life hate losing as much as Conte does. He's trying to drill it into his players too, but he's going to have a big decision there to make over Kane.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. Question on the right back. Look, we think it'll be Sessegnon at left wing back probably, but John asked about Doherty or Emerson. Emerson was shocking, as he always is, but I think Doherty might come in for that, and then if he plays well, he keeps his spot. If he doesn't, then Emerson comes back in against Marseille. But the reason I think Spurs are struggling so much, it's the wing backs, and the wing backs are so crucial to Conte ball, and I just don't think he was given perhaps the resources he wanted in the summer. But he needs wing backs, or he needs to change formation. He's not going to change formation, so he needs to get these guys playing. And at the moment, even Perisic doesn't look great, but he looks the best of the 4.
Yeah.
I mean, Jed Spence hasn't been given a go, but Conte doesn't seem to want him. He said when he signed, he's one for the future. He's not my signing.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote at the time that, it was a week after he joined, I said, expect Jed Spence to leave in January on loan. Like, he's not part of the immediate plan at Tottenham. Wasn't a Conte signing. He's not going to get enough games. And by January, there's a very good chance he'll be loaned out. And I still believe that is probably what will happen. But I also think it's very reasonable to expect that Tottenham will sign another player that is capable of playing right wing back. Like, I really do. I think that Spence just isn't what Conte wants right here and now for that role. And that's all he cares about. Conte doesn't care about preparing Jed Spence to be a great player in a year or two.
Yep.
He wants Jed Spence to be unstoppable this weekend against Bournemouth, and he's not. So that is game by game, and I'm afraid he's just not going to work for him.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Punter will definitely chat Fulham later in the show because
Of course I did. I thought we were going to win the league, but it might not happen.
It's a good question. Look, I've got 2 Fulham players in my 11 again this week, and I did last. Lloris and Spurs wingback throwing away clean sheets. Yeah, I think so. And they've even been linked with a goalkeeper as well. Lloris has been out of form. Nuclear Amp says Spurs are rubbish. Don't waste your breath talking about their assets.
They are. Yeah. Every single Spurs game this season has ended with somebody saying in the commentary team or in the analysis, well, Tottenham didn't play particularly well today. Every single game.
Yeah.
Every game. They're not playing well. And for a while, it was okay because they were winning. And that's what you've got Conte for. He's a winning machine. And you have to accept, it won't be that entertaining, but you'll get the points that you need. And the people that need to perform will. Mm-hmm. But now it's not really either of those things. And that's when you get a problem. Be really interesting to see if Conte ends up staying beyond this season.
Yeah. CH, you make a very good point, and it slipped my mind. Do get your likes in, everyone. If you're new around here, we do these streams on Mondays and Fridays at 7. So Monday looks at the weekend just gone, and Friday is, of course, looking ahead. We're with you from 7 till 8. So we've got another 40 minutes tonight to stay with us. We answer your questions when we can. We want this to be an interactive chat. So do keep it active in the chat. Do hit that like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, then please do. We've got our team reveals coming up very shortly. But I'm guessing, Dean, we got any more sort of headlines from the week just gone that you want to touch on?
Well, I just thought we might as well touch on Jared Bowen. He missed the Europa game. And there was a quote that he'd done a little bit of running ahead of this weekend. Didn't seem that convincing to me that he's going to be ready. I know that a lot of people have this guy and rate this guy. Obviously, they've got Man United away, be an important player in a fixture like that.
Yeah.
But it does seem doubtful to me. Paqueta, obviously out too. Aguerd played in midweek. Oh, yeah. Don't think he's playing this game. I don't think that they're going to play him back to back. I think he's going to be given some time to get properly fit. So just 3 things really from West Ham to be aware of. I mean, look, West Ham are starting to believe that they've turned the corner now. They're 10th in the league. They're finally getting up towards the positions that they expect to be in. Yeah. And if they were to win at Old Trafford, they would be knocking on the door of 7th, 8th. So it's quite a big game for them
before the World Cup, because after Old Trafford, they've got 2 homes, Palace and Leicester, both very winnable games. So the season seems to be turned around from Moyes.
Yeah, Moyes does seem to feel like they can really end well here. And that would be a really good ending for them to go into the World Cup on the back of, a good run of form would really set them up for that second point, and they can just go again, start fresh. And, given the way the league table's so tight at the moment, you still got that possibility of making the European spots.
So if you've got Jared Bowen, it is a bit of a dilemma because, sure, the United fixture, we don't think he'll play. But then it's homes to Crystal Palace and Leicester. Remember, he's still playing for a place in the England squad. He'll want to play those football matches. I think it's fairly safe he probably goes, but he won't necessarily think that. Now, you want him for those home fixtures, Crystal Palace and Leicester, but you also don't necessarily want to use your bench players this week, especially if Haaland potentially is out. So making a sell from Bowen to, say, Saka does feel like the obvious move. And I know a lot of FPL managers are making that switch. Of course, many of us don't have Saka because we sold our Arsenal assets ahead of the blank. Saka plays Nottingham Forest. He was rested midweek for Arsenal against PSV. I think he came on. But Arsenal have Forest at home, then Chelsea away, and then Wolves away. It's an okay fixture run. Those 3 fixtures feel all right. And I think I'd probably make the Bowen Saka move if I was on Bowen at the moment. Would you, Dean?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's seeming that way. I mean, I'm glad I haven't jumped on Bowen. I mean, people on here always try to get us to do Bowen, Zaha type moves, and I steer away from them most of the time. And at the moment, I'm kind of pleased. Oh, look, Dow's just shouting you out, mate. Zuma.
Oh, thanks, Dow. Yeah, you were right. I mean, after 30 seconds of the game being played, I never doubted that you were spamming us. But there we go. He did score and got me the 3 bonus and the clean sheet.
You ended up well, didn't you? You must have got a good score. I didn't actually check, but you must have been right up there.
I think it might have been the best FPL week I've ever had because was 82 points -4. Now that's not necessarily just in the numbers, but when you look at the game week rank, which isn't something I ever do, but you can see it on the FPL website.
Right.
My game week rank, bearing in mind there's over 10 million managers or teams or players.
Yeah.
It was something like 50k. Now, so often there's 50k plus using triple captaincy every week or whatever. So the fact I didn't use a chip and I still had a 50k rank, I blew my mind a bit because I was looking back for my other game week ranks this season and they're all around the 2 million mark.
Oh, really?
So to have a 50, because there's so many chips in play every week.
Yeah.
So to have a 50k, was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
No, I thought of you, mate. As soon as I saw that goal, I was like, fair play, fair play.
Yeah.
Knows what he's doing, this lad.
Well, I hope so. There's questions in the chat about Perisic. We'll talk more about Perisic when we see Dean's team coming up. Before we move on to our team reveals, just want to mention, like Dean just said about players like Zaha and Bowen, and both Dean and myself having a little bit of a reluctance to buy them. And Dean, I don't know if you agree with this, but part of the reason why I'm always reluctant on players like that is they're expensive players for the teams they play for the output we get. So spending 8 million on a Crystal Palace or a West Ham midfielder feels a little bit expensive when there's players within that midfield that also score goals. Perhaps not as many as Bowen or Zaha, but Eze's a threat and Paqueta's a threat or whatever. And you go, okay, these guys are 3 million cheaper or 2.5 million cheaper. And I just feel like when I'm spending 8 million on a mid, I want a Foden because I know City are going to score bags of goals every game. I want a Saka because I feel the same. Even a Mason Mount, I probably trust a little bit more because I trust the team he plays for. Is that why you're sometimes hesitant on likes of Zaha and Bowen because of the teams they're in?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely plays a part. I mean, if you got to consider, like, a lot of the time when Crystal Palace play well, it's because Zaha has turned up and put on a super show. But, Palace, I think they've drawn blanks in 3 of their last 6. I think that's right. I think they failed to score in 3 of their last 6 games. And I look at stuff like that and I'm like, that is way too much of a gamble. Like, I just can't count on it. And plus, like, how often is Zaha scoring more than 1? Not often, really. You've got other players in the game. You say Saka, Mount, whoever you want to talk about. But those players that are in top 5 teams, more chance of winning, more chance of scoring, more chance of creating, whichever way you want to look at it. It just edges it for me every time.
Yeah. And Mark asked about the talisman theory, which, I'm often a fan of, but the talisman theory is only right for teams if the price is right for that player and that team is playing to the right form. So, for example, talisman theory for West Ham at the moment for an 8 million Bowen, I feel like is okay, but it's not mind-blowing. Yet, if you're looking at the talisman theory for Newcastle and you go, it's a 5.3 midfielder in Almiron, well, yeah, I love that. So the price has got to be right. We can change the narrative based on the players we're seeing at any given time, but it doesn't mean it works for all 20 players of the 20 teams.
Yeah, absolutely absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I think we should probably move on. We've teased our teams a little bit, Dean. We're going to see yours first and then mine, I think. And it's an interesting week for both of us. Let's check out our teams.
Okay, yeah, so here it is. This team actually changed about an hour ago. Can you guess the transfer? Can you guess the transfer that was made from this team? Let's see.
I think from what you said earlier, I don't think you've sold Perisic, but maybe you have. It's possibly Aronson.
So Aronson's gone. Aronson's gone.
Aronson's gone to Almiron.
It's Almiron. Yeah.
Nice. I love that move. No one's got him. He's the second best midfielder in the game, 5th best in the entire game from any position, and he's only something like 20% owned, 15% owned.
I just can't ignore that form. Like I just can't. At that price point, Aronson's doing nothing for me. And it also then gives me a decision, to be honest, in this starting 11. Like I'm like, well, do I start Almiron instead of Maddison? Maddison's got Man City at home. I still think Maddison is capable of getting points in that game, to be honest.
Yeah.
But is Almiron in this sort of form in a home match against Aston Villa, who've got a new manager, more likely to bang? I think he probably is. Yeah. And also there's Andreas Pereira as well. Obviously, I consider that. Fulham home match against Everton. But Pereira in good form too. Like, he's so heavily involved in everything. I'm kind of tempted to leave him. But yeah, so I've So I've made the transfer. Now I really need people's advice. Like, weigh in the comments by all means. Tell me what you would do. Like, would you start Almiron, Madison, or Pereira, basically? Because that's where I'm at the moment.
Are you sold to the formation, Dean? Because I would bench Perisic and play.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, we were going to talk about this, weren't we? Yeah, that's the
I'd
other
go
thing.
back three. And your back three is amazing.
Okay, yeah. So
I'm
that's
quite jealous of that back three. Like, Trent's going to get you big points this week, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, so I take Perisic out, bring in Almiron, and we're done.
Yeah, and then because you don't really want to have to sell Perisic because you want him for that Leeds fixture, maybe for after the World Cup.
Yeah, no, I'm still happy to have him for sure. Yeah,
he'll come on as well, won't he? He will get 10 minutes, 20 minutes because Conte seems to do that a lot.
Yeah, we were talking earlier on, and obviously if Haaland isn't playing or whatever, you got to worry about that first sub a little bit more. Perisic is a first sub, I guess. I could be happy to consider there. But yeah, it's definitely been Trent off for Almiron. I can't do that, Dawson. I can't be doing that. You're trying to kill me.
Trent's the player I'm most jealous of in your 11 this
Is
week.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, do you know what? That's why I brought him in. Like, I just was looking ahead a little bit, and I was like, Trent's not going to be this bad for this long. Like, something's going to happen. And, playing against a team that are fighting against it at the moment, against the tide, and Jesse Marsch, like, he's probably got until the World Cup break to save his job. But if he gets battered here, he'll be gone. And I can see, when Liverpool went into that Bournemouth game last time, they weren't in great form then. They beat them 9-0.
Yeah.
Not saying they're going to win 9-0 at the weekend and kill off Jesse Marsch, but it was enough to get rid of Scott Parker. And this Liverpool team are capable of whatever they want to be capable of. There was the Rangers game last week or the week before, and up to half-time, Rangers were the better team. Liverpool were barely in the game. They scored 7. Like, it's ludicrous what this team's capable of. So,
even against Ajax, Ajax were the better team early on.
They were,
and then Liverpool kind of smashed them second half.
Yeah, absolutely that. It was probably a bit of a long game, maybe a bit of a gamble on Trent, but like, I don't know if he's usually this low in ownership. I'm imagining
I can't remember him being 19% owned in like 4 years.
Yeah, and I get it. He hasn't been in form and he costs a lot of money. I get it. But I just feel like a game like this could really, really be a game that really helps me. Sinister has been breaking my heart. Yeah, I bet he has been. Look, going back to the inform Almiron, too many times in FPL, I've let players like this pass me by. And I'm like, yeah, he's in good form, but it'll end. And I've learned it doesn't. Form matters, and like, confidence matters. And Almiron's a good player. We've known that all along. It's just he hasn't got the right role, and I think he'll be really looking forward to every single match at the moment. Far more than Jack Grealish is after the way that he had a dig at him. But isn't that mad? Like, Grealish, who you'd think, it's supposed to be a big season for him. I haven't seen anyone have Jack Grealish in their FPL team, and I doubt anyone who seriously plays this game has got Jack Grealish in their team at the moment. And yet Almiron, I think we should be clamoring to get.
Yeah, I cannot believe he's like 17% owned, yet he's the 5th best player in the entire game. And yeah, for some reason, we're still not going there. He's become Newcastle's talisman. Of course, Wilson up there too. I think Newcastle are worth consideration in the attacking areas too. Like, a lot of us have got Pope, a lot of us have got Trippier. But for some reason, we're not flocking towards Newcastle attackers. Yet they are scoring goals every week. They've got good fixtures and they're smashing form. Spartans, I know this will be a good one. I have to take the risk and read it out without reading it out. I'd be #team sell Perisic. Too much hassle owning him. Does he start, etc.? Also, Tottenham have hardly kept that many clean sheets. Yeah, it's a fair point, but there is that still that feeling with Perisic, Dean. I always think that he's gonna go and get a 15-pointer. He's got that in his locker, and not many defenders do.
Yeah, he's just so good, and there aren't that many good attacking capable defenders in this game. And look, I haven't really built this team on clean sheets specifically. I've got players that have got chances of clean sheets, but also chances of assisting or scoring. And look, I know Newcastle, great defensive record and stuff like that, but that's been a bonus to me, really. And Perisic is there because I know what he's capable of going forward and how much Conte loves him as well. Like, he really, really loves this guy. He's desperate to get him at his very, very best for Tottenham. And I think he'll be managing that carefully because he knows that when Perisic is banging, this team will be banging. So
Yeah.
really, really important player to Tottenham. And I don't really want to part ways with him because I know that.
Yeah, and your squad's strong enough for Aaron to come in, Perisic to be benched, and then you get Perisic starting against Liverpool, which I know it's against Liverpool, but you're picking Perisic for attacking returns, and he'll start that football match.
Yeah.
And then I think he probably starts that Leeds match too. So
Yeah.
I'd be happy with that decision. I also think this means you can then play Maddison, and I know it's Man City. So if there's a game he's not going to turn up for, that you'd expect to be the one he struggles in most. But he's been playing so well, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I don't think it really matters who he plays against at the moment. Like, this guy is so full of confidence.
Yeah.
He wants to prove he's capable of playing for anyone. I think he believes he could probably play for Man City, James Maddison, if I'm honest. Like, he is so good, and he genuinely believes it too. And that's fine. If you can back it up, that's fine. Brendan Rodgers thinks he's the best player in this team. Yeah. I think he's probably the best player in this team too. And you're seeing in that last game, was it the Wolves game? How he performs and when he's on song. And I genuinely don't think it matters that it's Man City. I think that Leicester can score in this game. I'm convinced Leicester can score in this game, to be honest with you. And if they do, there's a fair chance that Maddison is involved in that.
Yeah. NK asks how you still have De Silva. What I'd say about players like De Silva is you don't need your third sub in this game. Very rarely do you need your third sub in this game.
I don't think he's been in. Yeah, I don't think he's done anything for me. He's just sat there.
Yeah, and it's 4.4. Like I see a lot of third subs who might be a 5 million forward or a 4.5 defender. Your third sub should be the bottom price band.
Yeah, and he does play. It's like he gets games, so I don't even mind having him there. Like on a desperate week, I think he might have played. Was it the game when there was barely any games? Anyway, I think he had to come in 1 week for me, and it was fine. He got me a couple of points, like because he did actually play. I've seen him play in person too against Fulham, and he was pretty good. But yeah, it obviously looks a bit strange, but I don't really look at it like that. It's just a filler, and he's cheap, and he's there if I need him. Thanks, Ali. Not many people have been that jealous of my team in the past, so that's good.
And he's at 12k.
He's at 12k, and he's jealous of my team.
Royalty in the house this evening.
I'm about 700,000. Don't be jealous of me.
I'm not sure there'll be anyone watching. There's 267 of you watching right now. I don't think any of you will have a better rank than Ali. Can we put it to the test in the chat, guys?
And be honest.
Whack in your overall rank. Yeah, let's be honest. So where's Dal, who pretended Zuma scored after 30 seconds? He's going to put like, I'm 13th. So let's be honest. What's your rank? And you can be approximate with it. So I'm going to put in mine 150k. There we go. NK's at 29k. 3 million-ish we've had. Good honesty there. A Dawson at 680k, Astros at 3 mil. Dan knows the exact number, 732,002. CFC Blues at 206k, that's impressive. Andy at 45k it is as well.
Wow,
got some good ranks.
There is some good ranks there.
Greg at 27k.
I mean, let's get some guests on, and they'll just be the people that come and watch us every week.
Tom's at 7k. We might have a winner.
Whoa, that's high.
Paul Cook's at 7.3 mil. Paul.
He's given up.
You missed a couple of deadlines, Paul.
Yeah.
Come on. Because Paul's a regular. I'd like to think we're giving better advice than a 7 million rank, Paul.
Although I think I was somewhere down there last season when I was giving people advice, to be honest. These are good scores. Like these are good rankings. And as we say, like it's so tight at the moment. As I say, I'm fluctuating between 300,000 and 700,000 on a weekly basis. And even last week when I got a decent score, I didn't get up as high as I thought I would. It's a very strange season. But as I said right at the start, I feel like this game week is going to catch a few people out. I really do. By the way, on this, I've got Vice Captain Kane. That's not staying. That's not staying.
Okay. Gabby Jesus.
I think I've got to go Gabby Jesus. Yeah, it's got to be, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a good shout.
Yeah,
I feel like Kane won't let you down for a return, but I think Gabby Jesus has got the possibility of getting a 15-pointer, and I just don't think Kane has this week.
Exactly what I think. I think, as I said before earlier in the show, Tottenham could win that game 1-0 and Kane could score it. Absolutely. Yeah, fine. I think Arsenal could beat Nottingham Forest 4-0 and Gabby Jesus could get 2 and an assist or something like that, or a goal and 2 assists. And that's where I've got to go with this. For the people wondering what we're doing with Haaland and whether I'm picking him or not, yes, I am. We opened the show with it. I do not believe that there's any good really to come of taking the armband away from Haaland just in case he's fit. Like if Sam Lee from the Athletic tweets at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Haaland is not playing today, is not in the squad today, fine, I'll change the captaincy because I completely trust that guy, and he wouldn't be tweeting that if it wasn't true. But beyond that, I don't think there's much that can change my mind of just keeping the captaincy on him because he's either starting, coming on when they need a goal, or not playing at all.
Feels like the community's split. So, friend of the show, FPL Salah Abdul, has put a poll out. Now, this is just, I mean, it doesn't mean anything because it's just getting people's thoughts, right?
Yeah.
His followers. Do you think Haaland starts? The options are starts, benched, misses out completely. And it's pretty split. 47% say starts, 31% think benched, 22% thinks misses out completely. But who knows anything? How long's a piece of string?
Yeah, exactly that. Like, as I said, I'm trying, I'm not giving to any time to it. Like, you can get so caught up in this. And I know a lot of people probably are right now. And I'm just refusing to give that part of my mental capacity to worrying tonight about whether Erling Haaland's fit or not, because I'm convinced that the majority of people, I reckon 75% of Haaland owners, are just going to stick with it because it's too much of a risk to lose it.
I'm the same. And the only ones that take off the armband, or a lot, will be those that genuinely think Salah or Kane or Jesus is a better option. That's fair enough if you genuinely think that. Or those that perhaps see the flag on the FPL app. So maybe they're playing for the first season or they're complete casual managers and they go, oh, there's a flag there. 75, I'm not going to risk that. It's a flag. And they don't even look into the injury or the press conferences or anything like that.
Yeah. LK, Haaland benched and plays 20 minutes, scores 3 goals. This is the thing.
You could see it.
This is the thing. Like, he does this. What was the game when he's touched the ball like 8 times or something?
Yeah.
11 times, like whatever it was. Like, this guy is different. And as I say, if there is a chance of him being fit, he plays because Man City need him at the moment. And yeah. It's going to be interesting. I am actually looking forward to that team, to that lineup coming out, and just seeing how I actually feel at that moment.
Yeah, and remember, guys, it is the early kickoff. There will be some leaks on Twitter. There might be some leaks on Twitter, so do keep engaged. There might be some accurate leaks. There might be some complete BS there as well, so be very careful with what you're trusting. Let's have a look at my team, and we'll start with captaincy, because I'm also going Haaland. That's because I genuinely think Haaland is the best captaincy option this week, right? I'm not too worried about the injury in the same way Dean's not. I do believe if he's injured, he probably doesn't play. He may come on if they're losing, but he'll get plenty of time to get them back in the game. Half an hour cameo, I probably take because he's that good. So there we go. That's my take on the Haaland situation. Very similar to Dean. I've got 0.0 in the bank. I've got 1 free transfer. And I'm not making a transfer this week. I'm being very boring and rolling. There's no obvious move for me to make. If you think there is one, please let me know in the chat. Knowing I don't have any money in the bank, look at who I would have to sell and then swap. There's very few options. So Bueno, for example, I'm not sure if he starts off the back of a 4-0 defeat to Leicester. He has started the last 2. So if he doesn't start, I have Zuma come in, which isn't ideal. Now, I don't want to sell Zuma because you could say sell Zuma for a 4.5 with a good fixture and then play Zuma. But he has Crystal Palace and Leicester up next, both at the London Stadium. And that home advantage really matters to me. And I want him in my 11 for those 2. I think he can get 2 clean sheets there. Yeah. So other than that defender spot, I'm very happy with kind of everyone else in my 11. So that's where I'm at. Is there any suggestions you might have, Dean? Or would you be doing what I'm doing?
No, yeah, I think you're probably making the right decision. Obviously, Bueno's somebody that we don't know too much about, but I know you watched him and liked him, so I totally understand why you would be giving it a go for now. Really not that much to lose. Certainly not worth making a transfer over not having him playing or anything like that. Salah will be interesting. You 31% owned now, Salah. It's slowly creeping up. People are starting to get tempted again, aren't they? It's this big debate about where he plays at the moment, isn't it? Like, you just want to see him central. If like, in an FPL point of view, when he's central, it just feels like his goal chances just rise so much from when he was stuck out on that flank.
Yeah, an average position map against Ajax looked like a front two, very central, the most advanced player on the pitch for Liverpool. It's kind of what we wanted to see, and he got points. Ryan says about Dallo. Unfortunately, Dallo's got not 4.5 million, as far as I'm aware. I think he's had a price rise.
How's
So
he?
0.0 in the bank, remember, guys. So I can't. He's had two price. He's 4.7, and he rose the other night. So yeah, Zuma to Dallo doesn't work. Dow, we don't believe that for 1 second because you're the same person that told me about Zuma. We'll get that off screen because we don't trust you. Here we go. Mohammed, one of our
Hey,
friends of
a
the show.
trustworthy guy.
Just in time to get my questions in. Mohammed, feel free, but make sure you go back and watch the first 41 minutes because tonight's show has been awesome, I think.
Yeah, make a
Salah
promise.
scoring the Champions League, not the Premier League. Yeah, do we read anything into that, Dean? Like, Premier League form
Yeah.
hasn't been great, but Liverpool haven't. But they are
No.
smashing it in the champs. But for me, they're playing very similar football. They're getting, I don't want to say lucky in the Champions League, but certainly against Rangers and Ajax, at times they look like they were getting battered and then they go on and blow them away. So they've just not conceded at the wrong time because Ajax, if they score early, that's a very different game. Rangers the same.
Yeah, I mean, Rangers obviously came on and scored against a team that were basically out of the game, dead. Let's take away, it's still hard to score a hat trick, but like there aren't many times in the Premier League you're in that situation. Ajax game, like the keeper was flying out of his goal. I'm not sure there are any Premier League goalkeepers that would have made the decision that goalkeeper made. So it was still a really nice cross and a nice finish. Just not convinced that you can really compare at the moment. Look, the Premier League is tough. Confidence is definitely a thing. But we saw Salah against Man City show that like he'll still do it when he has the opportunity to. He'll still score goals. But be interesting to see, obviously, Darwin Nunez whether he continues. I still don't know what I think about this guy. Like my genuine take actually on Darwin is that like as a footballer, I don't think he's right for this Liverpool team at all. I think he's completely different to everything else they've got. Maybe that's what Klopp wanted. Maybe that's what he was looking for, and he thought it would be good for them. I'm not sure it always works. I mean, it's all over the place, whether his shots are going to hit the target or fly towards goal. He's a bit of a brute. He's missed that. That absolute sitter he missed in midweek. Like he'll miss that. Then he'll do something brilliant a second later. But from an FPL point of view, I think that Darwin Nunez is actually quite a good option because he causes so many problems. He will score goals throughout the season. So while I like massive question marks about him in that team generally, from an FPL point of view, I think he's actually becoming quite a good asset.
I feel exactly the same about him as a player and as an FPL asset. And we do have to sometimes try and separate the two as FPL managers. And he is a hogger of big chances like no other. His non-penalty XG per 90, bit of a mouthful, is better than any players in the league. And that includes Haaland. Like he is getting the chances per 90 more than any other player by a country mile. More touches in the box, more shots, everything. He smashes it when he plays.
Yeah.
His underlying numbers do anyway. Not the numbers that really matter, which is the goals and assists, which I'm sure will come.
Yeah.
Loads of suggestions saying swap Zuma for someone that's more expensive than Zuma. Can't do that. 0.0 in the bank. Same with swapping Bueno for someone that's more expensive than Bueno. There is no 3.9 starter in the game, guys. Bueno is the only one. So Patterson is 4 million and it will be his first week back from injury. I think Lampard has said he's available again. Whether or not after 4 or 5 weeks out, he starts straight away. Also, I don't have the 0.1. But I'm with you. Patterson over Bueno would be my preferred move if I had the money. And if I knew he'd start. But we don't know those things yet.
How are you feeling about Mitro?
Oh, good question. So double Fulham, I am worried about the injury, the knock he picked up and is obviously carrying, but I love the fixture on paper. And look, Everton have kept a few clean sheets and their defence has been all right this season, but Pickford's actually kept them in a huge amount of games. They've still conceded a ton of chances. And double Fulham attack for fixtures against mid to lower opposition at the Cottage, I'm up for backing. Are you going to the game?
I am, yeah, I'm going. And look, everyone raves about Everton's midfield, and there's no doubt that they've got a good three together in there. But I fancy Fulham's midfield are just as good. Like I think we've got a really good chance of winning this game. Like Palhinha and Harrison Reed have been great. Andreas has been brilliant too. I think we'll in all the areas where they're strong. I feel we're also strong. I'm always slightly worried about our defence. Like we do concede quite a lot of goals, and DCL now available. I feel like if you're this week looking for someone who's a bit different, I think Calvert-Lewin's probably worth starting to come into your thinking now. Like if they've given him a little time to get fit and they don't want to risk him. Obviously, he wants to get to the World Cup too. Might be too late, but if you look at Southgate, he does pick players he trusts. As long as he's in decent condition, I can see him picking him maybe even ahead of Ivan Toney.
Would you go Calvert-Lewin over Mitro? So Mitrovic plays Everton, but then it's Man City, Man United. So maybe it's give Mitro one more week. But that's a potential swap that I've considered loosely for next week. Calvert-Lewin's got good fixtures, and now he's back fit and playing for that place. Was that a move you would make?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that. Look, I think Mitro is capable of scoring, to be honest, against Man City and Man United, but the likelihood is that he doesn't in at least one of those games. And I think with Everton, the way that they're feeling, like a home fixture against Leicester, certainly fancy him. And then Bournemouth too, and like especially as I say, like getting to that World Cup. Like at the moment, Mitro is managing his body to make sure that he can help Fulham and also gets to the World Cup. But Calvert-Lewin has that edge whereby he needs to get into the World Cup. So he's got to give that little bit more and try that little harder. So I'd probably stick with Mitro for this game. Fulham at home to Everton is a good chance of him scoring. But yeah, I think switching Mitro to DCL from next week would be a decent move.
I might make that move. I'm going to have 2 free transfers, so I can be really creative. And there's no one that I obviously want to sell. So I'm just going to chase fixtures. And I might go, depending on how he looks this week, I might go, Calvert-Lewin's got Leicester at home, Bournemouth away. Mitro plays the 2 Manchester clubs. It's an obvious switch if you're into your fixtures, and I kind of am. Pereira this week, definitely start Mohamed. Pereira a lot of the time this season has been way too good. He's been way too good to be benching every week. And the home games against mid-table opposition or weaker opposition, you have to start him for me.
Yeah, look, like Everton give up more chances than any other team in this league, right? Like, I don't know if that's definitely still. The week before last, that was definitely true. I don't know if like Wolves or someone have outdone them by now. But like Everton give up a lot of chances. And Pereira is on free kicks, corners. He's playing attacking midfield. He feeds Mitro. Harry Wilson is now back for Fulham. Like that is a really big deal. Like Harry Wilson is a massive part of the reason that Fulham got promoted last season. Willian is playing really well for Fulham. He's really fitting in well with these sorts of players too. Andreas is a really good pick still.
I'm with you there. And I'm delighted to see William playing well. And it's cool that Harry Wilson's back in the mix as well. That Fulham attack's looking very exciting. I was going to say all of a sudden, but it's been quite good all season when you look at the resources that have been available to them.
Yeah, I think there's only been one game where Fulham haven't scored this season. Only one.
Really?
Match.
Oh, yeah. Spartans, just not for me. Look, Salah captaincy, we might be eating our words on Monday, but Dean and I are both pretty sold still on Haaland this game week. Guys, we're going to move on. Thanks for getting so many questions in. And look, if you've just joined us, we do these streams on Mondays and Fridays at 7. So you can set those alarms, those notifications. Literally, we're always here Mondays and Fridays at 7 UK time. Please, if you like what you're seeing, hit that like button. That'd be awesome. And do subscribe to the channel. Next up, if you haven't seen it before, it's a load of fun. It's Against the Obvious.
Here we go then, I am arguing that Leon Bailey should not be in your team this week. I feel like this is probably one that a lot of people are going for. He's generally not like heavily owned, but on the back of what Bailey has been achieving recently, I think that a lot of people will have him on their watch list and will be considering bringing him in on the fact that he got 13 points last game week, a 4-0 win over Brentford. He's been threatening this all season. He's been trying to get into this team. I think he's got 8 points against Man City earlier on in the season. But for me, Leon Bailey right now, a fixture going to Newcastle with a new manager. I just do not think that this is the time to be picking Leon Bailey. I think it's very difficult to predict who's going to start this game. They've got so many players that are similar to each other. And I think that when Unai Emery first comes into this job, he's going to give them all outings at different times to see who fits which roles that he wants from them. Coutinho is going to get his opportunities too. Buendia is going to get chances. I just think that Leon Bailey at the moment hold fire. I'm not sure about him. You had him on the bench, didn't you?
I had 13 points on my bench from Leon Bailey, but I was
Yeah.
never really going to start him, I guess. I
Okay.
mean, I considered it for a second, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
annoying.
Are you keeping him? You keeping him on the bench this week too?
Yeah. If Haaland
Yeah.
doesn't play, though, he comes on.
True. Yeah. And I think that's okay. Like if you've got Bailey, I think having him as a first sub is actually not a bad place to be. But I've seen a lot of people starting to talk about considering him recently. I say against the obvious, like this isn't like we were saying don't pick Salah or Haaland like we've said in the past. But I do feel like because they've just battered Brentford last weekend, and you think, oh, there's a bit of something going on here. Like it might have been a one-off,
Yeah. Yeah. And guys, we can't pick Salah, Kane, and Haaland every week for these features. So look, I've gone for
No,
someone
sorry.
around the fringes. Although look, he's mass owned because of all the dead teams that picked him early in the
True.
season, but he's not on form, and that is Gabriel Martinelli. I really thought come the end of this part of the season, we would see loads of great performances from Martinelli as he tries to get into that Brazil squad, of which he's been sort of in and around the fringes of. But recently, probably the last month, his form has taken a massive nosedive. And now I don't know if there's an easy explanation as to why, because he started the season so well. All I can think is he's a young lad. He's getting a huge amount of games. He's not used to playing twice a week every week. And he's been a 90-minute man for Arsenal most of the time this season, but he's blanked in the last couple. He looked poor against PSV. Arsenal looked poor. And he just looks a little bit tired. So sure, he's in my 11 this week because I've chased the fixture and I'm giving him a chance. Am I expecting anything more than 3 points maximum? Not really. That's all he's got in the last two. I also wonder how long he's got until he perhaps has 1 or 2 games on the bench. If Smith Rowe was fit and ready, I think he'd be out.
Like that. I like that a lot. I was really considering bringing him in this week because I've got some money in the bank. And I could have got to him instead of Almiron, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then I saw your against the obvious drop in my WhatsApp. And I was like, no, I'm not going there then. I'm not going there. But, he has got a good fixture, so I can see why people are interested. I think we're back. Like we're to-ing and fro-ing all season now on Martinelli or Saka, and there's this price gap to consider between them. Like if I could get to one of them now, I'd 100% be going Saka.
Yeah, me too. And look, when we do our unlimited transfers chips in a month's time, we'll all be going Saka. And we might complement that with Martinelli, but Saka will be straight in, and we've got the penalty appeal as well, I think.
Yeah. They're going to have to bolster that squad, I think, in January. I think they'll look to get at least 2 players in just to add that little bit of depth because they obviously expected to improve this season. I don't think they expected to be top of the league right now.
Yeah.
And staying there is going to be extremely tough. And like a lot of people say in the comments, they do look tired.
Yeah, they need a wide forward or 2 as well because Smith Rowe's injured and look, Vieira's prefers playing centrally and is going to need a bit of time. Guys, we need to get some of your questions, so we're going to answer as many as we can in the next 7 minutes. We'll be as quick as we can. You will lose your team value. Good point. But this game isn't all about team value. And look, you've gained an extra 0.4, but you've also made 0.4 profit. It only works against you if you're buying that player back. So if you think you're going to buy him back, then yeah, that is a shame. Think about it in detail before you do so. I'm not saying ship him straight away. I wouldn't necessarily be selling this week ahead of Forest.
No, absolutely.
Punter, should we do alternate questions, Dean? Do you want to take this?
Yeah. Okay, I'll take this one. Yes, sure. Shah, Trippier, Diaz, Cancelo, Dyer, which defender to bench? And Trossard or Andreas, midfielders to bench. I mean, right. So we'll bench. Trossard is a hard one to bench because even though it's Chelsea, bench Trossard and which defender to Dyer? Mainly because he was terrible the other day.
Missing big chances.
I know it doesn't really matter. Like if they keep a clean sheet, they keep a clean sheet. But like, not trusting him right now.
Khaled, holding Firmino for game week 14 or selling him to get Mitrovic, Tony. I'm not sure Bobby starts. I actually don't think he will because of the Liverpool fixture run. So I'd probably go to Mitro.
Mitro to Nunes, captain for -4. Thoughts, please. That is massive. That's a big shout. Captain. Leeds. I mean,
he'll get the chances. Whether or not he scores
will get the
them.
chances. I mean, go for it, mate. Go for it.
Cool.
I mean, Mitro's got a lower ceiling than Nunez has this weekend, I think. So go for it, gamble.
I think I've seen quite a few new names in the chat. FPL Madridista, love that 7. Make sure you're subscribing and liking the channel, guys. Do hit that like button. Wilson or Tony? Oh, it's so hard. They are both playing for that last striker spot for England. I think Tony will get it, but Wilson has a small chance. Calvert-Lewin has a small chance, and Watkins has pretty much a non-existent chance, but still might fancy himself. Oh, and Rashford. And only one gets it. Tony might get it, but I think I'd go Wilson for FPL.
Yeah, go Wilson. Interesting. Right. Rashford or Foden? Foden all day long.
It's an easy one, that.
Yep.
Mark, Zuma versus... Yeah. Oh, I think both might start. And I know they've got the German lad, is it Kea? They signed in the summer as well, but he can play right back. And I wonder if all three are going to be starters. And also, Moyes has at times played a back three. I think these guys are both going to be starters in January.
Yeah, probably right. Is Bruno Fernandes worth a pump for the next year? We haven't really talked about Man United, actually. United look like the old Man United at the moment. Like, you look at their midfield, Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno Fernandes is something you might have seen under Sir Alex Ferguson, and we haven't seen since. And so, as a result of having Eriksen and Casemiro behind him, also having Anthony one side, whoever up front, and a decent option to the left, usually Sancho, Bruno Fernandes has suddenly become a much better player. He's got the captain's armband. He's looked more responsible. I think Bruno Fernandes actually is worth a punt. I would go for that. I think he's somebody that might be worth overlooked, and you might get an edge.
Loads of chances created against Spurs, I think, from Bruno, and he's good against Chelsea, and the fixtures are all right. I don't hate that either. If you've got the money, though, he's so expensive.
Yeah, he's expensive. That's the main thing that lets you down.
Best keeper for the next 3 games is really tough. When I put my wildcard draft together last week, I think I went Pickford, and he did. He went and got a clean sheet on the first game. So he had Crystal Palace, where he kept a clean sheet. And then the other 3 fixtures, Everton right at the top of the ticker. They play Fulham, Leicester, Bournemouth. They're the best 3. So I'd probably go Pickford because he's cheap as well. But Kepa's, I think Chelsea will keep tons of clean sheets. And Kepa will be one we will have in January, I think.
Yeah, I've got Kepa now, and I think I'll be keeping him for the rest of the season if he's there. Right. Yeah. DCL or Darwin. Darwin. If it's a straight pick, then just go with Darwin for now, because DCL could get injured, could blank for now. He's still not in form, whereas Darwin's going to get loads of chances.
Yeah, still not sure if DCL's back for 90 as well. It'll be against the obvious, Andreas or Martinelli. Okay, is this to put in your 11 or to buy? I'm going to say this is to put in your 11. I would still play Martinelli and play against Forest. And there's a good chance, James, you've probably got Mitrovic as well. So you don't need to necessarily double. But yeah, I'd try and start Andreas if I could over someone else, but not Martinelli.
Yeah, certainly. Salah to KDB next week. Let me just reassess where we're at next week, because I'm getting jumbled up.
Salah plays Spurs. KDB, I'm guessing, has quite a good fixture.
KDB has Fulham, of course he does. Yeah, game that I considered going to and then quickly changed my mind when I realised what I'll be in for. Yes.
If you've got a third Man City option available, brilliant. Like, I can't make that move, and I'd be up for selling Salah, but I've already got 3 City, so
yeah, absolutely.
And I like this Castle one. Clown 0-0. I'm going to say Clown when the game needs to be won first. I don't mind tricks at even 1-0 up against poor opposition.
I don't actually care about this. I think that, like, what Anthony did, like, I can't believe that as a Man United have finally got a player capable of doing this. Like, Rashford, whenever I've watched Rashford play that position, he starts running, scares himself, turns around and passes it backwards. Finally, they've got someone that's actually willing to try and be inventive. That is the idea of that position, and that's kind of what you bring those players into the club for. Really surprised to see, like, Paul Scholes saying they'll knock it out of him. It's like, you got to knock it out of him. Like, this is what he is. Like, he's out there to scare people and have a go at people. NK, the game is about entertainment. I agree. Like, obviously, the pass was poor, so he did look a bit of a clown. But if you stop Anthony from doing this, then, well, there's no point having him.
I did enjoy. It was Jules Breach in the studio with Paul Scholes and Hargreaves.
It was. Yeah,
that post-match chat was good. Good value.
Yeah, she's good at teeing people up because she knows what she's getting them in for, and she just sits back and smiles.
Yeah,
very good.
Great job. I watched that on YouTube this morning. It came up as one of my suggested watches. So I knew it was going to be good, and I was
I actually watched it. Like, I don't actually always watch that much analysis, but I was just carried on watching, and yeah, she did a really good job.
Ali asking about City attacking triple up for 15 and 16. Yeah, I like it. If I was on a wild card, genuinely, right now, I think I'd be going KDB, Foden, and Haaland, and actually disregarding with a heavy heart Cancelo, because I think the goals, the ceiling of goals we could get with 2 home games. Now, City at home only ever score big, and it's Fulham and Brentford in 15 and 16. So yeah, definitely something to consider would be KDB, Foden, and Haaland for those 3. And maybe with my 2 free transfers, I actually do sell Cancelo, although I still think he's pretty safe for clean sheets in both those games. But I want the high ceiling, and KDB and Foden give me it.
Yeah, nice. Who's on top, Gianni or Dean? And is the Curry bet on? Oh, Gianni's obviously clear of me at the moment. I'm not sure by how many points, but we heard earlier on that he's got a very good ranking. They're reasonably tight. I'm going to guess it's about 30 odd points or 40 points at the moment.
It's amazing when you look at the points and you go, oh, I only need one player to bang and we're back level, or there's not much in it. But that might look big in terms of rank, but in terms of points, it's still tight.
Yeah, it is tight. And no, I'm not anywhere near the Curry zone at the moment. I'm confident I will not be playing for the lads Curry for the 3rd year in a row.
Cheers, punter, for that. We'll end on that note, guys. It's been awesome you guys watching and supporting us on Friday nights when there isn't a deadline. The deadline is, of course, tomorrow morning. There's 300 of you watching. Before you leave, if you can subscribe to the channel, that'd be amazing if you don't already. Appreciate all the likes. It's been awesome having you in the chat. That hour has absolutely flown by. We look forward to being back Monday at 7. But for now, guys, he's been Dean, I've been Gianni, and we've been chasing green arrows.